Welcome aboard. Thank you for joining us on today's journey. I'm your captain, Damon Kent. Please take a moment to get settled in with your favorite beverage or whatever. We will be cruising at flight level 420 to your favorite destination. Please recline your seats to their most comfortable position and allow us to take you from here to there. The next time a friend tells you something that starts with, "You are not gonna believe this." After listening to this story, will you believe it or not?
Dear Penthouse, I never thought it would happen to me. Those silly stories always started the same and would always have the most improbable women doing the most improbable things to the most undeserving loser guys. But this story is 100% true, I swear. It was a dark and stormy night. No, not really. It was clear and the moon was out. I was returning home with groceries when I rounded a sharp corner and saw an older model sports car with steam coming out of the radiator. As I slowed down to pass it, I saw a great pair of legs encased in a most appealing pair of jeans. Of course, I pulled over to the side of the road to offer my assistance. I approached her from the front so that she could see me and believe that I was no threat. I called to her and asked if she needed any help. I told her my name and that I lived nearby and that we were in one of the cell phone dead zones, so if she needed help I would call when I got home. She must have thought I was okay, so she said that would not be necessary. Her radiator had overheated and she just needed to let it cool off. Fortunately, I had just purchased a few gallons of bottled water, so I offered to let her use as much as she needed. She smiled, and I thought I would just melt. She offered her hand, and the touch of it was electric. She told me her name, but I couldn't hear it because she was the most beautiful woman imaginable, and I was totally mesmerized. She giggled and asked if I was okay because I was just speechless. I came to my senses and let go of her hand. We shared a small laugh. "Well, while we're waiting for the radiator to cool down a bit, what brings you to this area? Nobody comes out here unless they live on one of the large farms." She told me her old college roommate had invited her to stay while she was on vacation from her flight attendant job. She lived about another 6 or 7 miles away, so I was hoping I would have a chance to see this woman again. While we were talking, I noticed that she had a wrench in her hand and a toolbox at her feet. I observed that she was not only stunning, but she knew her way around a car. She said her alternator belt had been squeaking, so she was going to tighten it up while she had this chance. I offered my assistance, and she sweetly accepted. I put some tension on the alternator while she tightened the bolt, holding it in position. Watching the muscles strain in her arms while she put her strength into tightening the bolt caused a definite tightening on my part, too. I suddenly became aware of her as a total sexual being. She turned her head to meet my eyes, and she smiled a sly, wicked grin. I suggested, as the radiator was still too hot to open, we may want to chill for a while. I had a sleeping bag in the trunk, so I spread it out on the grass next to her car. I returned with a pack of cold cuts, bread, and a 6-pack of soda. She wanted to wash up a bit before eating. There was a stream very close by, so she suggested we go there so she could wash her hands. I kinda got the feeling from the way we had been eyeballing each other that something else may have been on her mind, but I wanted to let her take the lead. Under the full moon, we made our way to the stream about 50 feet from the road. She knelt to wash her hands in the slow-moving water. I could not take my eyes off the dim silhouette before me. The hard body, the gentle curves, and her indescribable beauty stirred a great desire within me. She slowly stood up and turned to me. She had a similar spark in her own eyes. "You know," she said, "my friend isn't expecting me till tomorrow afternoon. I was going to surprise her, but I think that can wait for a while. I really want to thank you for stopping to help me." With that, she placed her arms on my shoulders and kissed me. I was stunned but very pleased. I returned her kiss, feeling her passion increase the longer we embraced. Her hands dropped from my shoulders and grabbed my butt, forcefully pulling me into her. I liked this a lot. A beautiful, strong woman who was not afraid to show her passions wanted to show them to me. I felt lucky to be here with this dream woman. She broke our embrace and stepped back a few steps, never breaking eye contact. She pulled the sweater from her jeans and slowly pulled it over her head. Her bra-encased breasts were beautiful. She posed with her hands on her waist, displaying her charms and inviting my appraisal. I did not disappoint her. I unbuttoned my shirt and slowly removed it. She seemed to like what she saw. I work constantly on my ranch, keeping things going smoothly, so I'm in pretty good shape. Her tongue licked her lips lasciviously as she unbuttoned her jeans and slowly lowered the zipper. I thought I detected a pretty design on her panties, but in the moonlight I could not be sure. As she stepped out of the jeans, I could tell that was not a design on her panties, but a tattoo. She had no panties on and was as smooth as she could be. I quickly kicked off my boots and removed my jeans and shorts. She smiled appreciatively as I approached her. I dropped to my knees and kissed her, enjoying her heat and smoothness. My hands caressed her buttocks and pulled her to me. Her fragrance was intoxicating as she spread her thighs to allow me to pleasure her. I let my hands wander over her smooth, warm skin as I enjoyed the heat of her passion. My fingers reached the silky fabric of her bra. I could feel not only the soft orbs encased there, but also the hardening buttons extending from them. A moan of passion escaped her lips, and I could tell she had reached the pinnacle of pleasure. Her knees began to buckle, and I gently lowered her to the ground to lie on our discarded clothing spread on the grass. She reached behind her to release the clasp of her bra, and it was my turn to moan in appreciation. Her nude body was a work of art. Her lips curled in the most beautiful, sexy grin I could imagine as she pushed me backwards onto the ground. She was on her knees at my side as she let her hands roam over my chest and legs. She kissed me once again, and our tongues dueled while she let her fingertips graze my flat stomach and muscular chest, pausing as she teased my nipples. She broke our kiss and let her silky hair trail over my skin. The feeling was indescribable. She kissed my chest and stomach as her fingers slowly slid up my thigh. I could only hope she would continue. As she passed my belly button, she suddenly stopped. I had closed my eyes, concentrating on the feelings, and now they had stopped suddenly. I know I'm by no means what most people would consider well-endowed, but I hoped she would not be disappointed. I opened my eyes to see her lips poised over her target, staring into my face. She smiled and said, "I wanted you to watch." With that, she lowered her head and slowly, tantalizingly, engulfed me totally. The velvety warmth sent shockwaves throughout my body. She moved back up, releasing me to the night air, and asked playfully, "You like?" Not just yes, but hell yes. Her hand replaced her lips momentarily as her fingers slid up and down. Never before had I enjoyed it this much. As she exchanged her fingers for her lips once more, she swiveled her body around so that once again her southern lips were accessible by mine. I wrapped my arms around her waist and pulled her to me. I ran my tongue up one side and down the other. I pointed my tongue and slid into the entrance of the holiest of holies. And we completed the circle of pleasure, both being pleased while pleasing. I found the elusive spot that is claimed most men ignore and encircled it with my lips, gently sucking on it and teasing it with my tongue. She tensed once again, and I was rewarded once again with the outpouring of her emotional release. She rose up and stood above my waist, looking down on me. She swayed above me like an exotic dancer and slowly lowered herself to me. She reached down and steadied herself, making sure I hit a bullseye the first time. As I made first contact, I could no longer wait. I thrust my hips and entered her completely. We both slowly lowered, keeping contact at all times. She placed her hands on my chest and rocked her hips back and forth, placing pressure just where she wanted it. In the moonlight, I could see her breasts bouncing and placed my hands on them, massaging and kneading them. I was on the verge of release and could feel her from her tightening on me, indicating that she was also. As she slid back and forth, I clenched my buttocks and thrust as deeply as possible. It felt like I was being drained. The tempo increased, and finally, the anticipated results triggered her third release. Our combined screams and moans probably scared away any wild animals that may have been curious about the beast with two backs. She collapsed onto my chest, crushing her breasts between us, and we kissed, more tenderly than before. I reached around and covered her with my shirt as we cuddled and recovered by the moonlit stream. After a few minutes, she rose and retrieved her clothing. We both got dressed in silence, just enjoying the moment. We walked back to our cars hand in hand. I put a couple of bottles of water in her radiator while she packed her tools so she could continue on her way. I wanted to see her again and was about to ask for her number when she kissed me, placed her finger on my lips, and said, "I'll call you." I watched as she got into her little sports car, made a U-turn, and sped away. I sat on my bumper, recovering for a few minutes, till I realized she had driven off in the opposite direction from where she said she was going. When I got home, I looked up her friend's phone number and inquired about her. There was silence for a few moments, and I asked what was wrong. Her friend's strained voice asked how I knew this woman. I explained what had happened, not everything, of course, and said she drove away in the opposite direction. A few moments passed, and then I was told the woman I supposedly met had been killed in that curve 5 years ago, just 1 week before she was to have been married. This is your captain once again. This concludes our journey for now. Thank you for coming, and we hope you'll join us again whenever you need to get there.